Hey, Chick-fil-A Southroads team, thank you so much for joining me on another leadership series. Today I want to talk about the idea of decision making. As a leader, you have to make decisions in our business every single day. And we know that sometimes decisions aren't easy. Sometimes we feel like we got big decisions in front of us that maybe we're scared to make or we don't know how to make. And today what I want to do is I want to equip you with the skills so you can make better decisions in the business and feel confident about the decisions you're making and continue to help advance and grow our business through the decisions that you make. So the first thing I want to talk about when you make decisions is, number one, is clearly define the problem. Charles Kettering, he was a American engineer and inventor and businessman. He worked for General Motors over 30 years when they were first inventing cars, and probably one of the best innovators that you could think of during that time. And he is always known for saying that a problem well defined is half solved. And so the first step in making any good decision is to begin to understand the problem at hand. And what's a better way to understand a problem than to gather as much information as you can around that problem? It's asking the questions and understanding what is really happening at the very root of this problem. If you can figure that out, then you can begin to find the right solutions to fix a problem that you have. A great example or a great strategy to do this is to use a process that we call the 5 whys. And really this is just a simple way of just asking the question why. Every time you think of a problem, ask the question why. Why did this happen? And then when you find out why that happened, well, why did that happen? And keep asking that question until you can't ask why anymore and you've gotten to the very root cause of the problem that you have. For instance, you might be asking ourselves, or we may be asking ourselves in the business, well, why isn't the team going outside and taking orders with iPads? Well, if we ask that question, we might say, well, because the iPads aren't ever charged when we need to go out there to use it. Well, now the next question is, well, why aren't they charged? Did we forget to charge them previously, or have they been being used all day long? Well, from there we may say, well, why are we forgetting to use them, or why are they being used all day long? Well, we may come up with a solution. Well, there's not enough iPads, or we don't have chargers. Well, why don't we have enough iPads, or why don't we have enough chargers? Well, maybe because we don't have the budget, or maybe we just didn't even realize that was an issue. Now you know that maybe the solution is not necessarily that you just have to tell people to go outside more, but really we have to solve the problem of getting more iPads or getting chargers. Now you can begin to create the right solutions. So the second step in great decision making is really to think through the solutions. And the best advice I can give you when you're thinking of solutions is to say that there is no solution that is not a possibility. That you want to throw out there as many solutions and possibilities as you can when you're thinking about making the right decisions for a business. Get solutions from other people that are close to the problem, understand their perspective and what they can help you maybe to better understand the right solutions. Think of solutions yourself. Gather as many solutions as you can, and really this is the point where you are just trying to brainstorm and come up with as many ideas as possible. Don't rule any ideas out. But then that's going to take you to the third step of decision making. This is where you have to really weigh out the positives and the negatives. So what are the positives of making this decision? But also, what are the negatives? If I make this decision, what are the potential risks that it could bring by making that decision? And essentially you are creating a pros and a cons list, a rewards and a risk list, right? You just want to label everything out for every decision, and you want to think about what are the positives and what are the potential risks that decision could bring about. And then the final aspect of the decision making is that you have to decide and you have to evaluate. You need to go through your list and you need to figure out what is the best solution that I have that brings about the most positives and that brings about the least amount of risk that I can handle or I can stomach as a leader. And you need to make that decision, and then evaluate your decision as you're living out that decision. Evaluate it day in and day out and say, okay, hey, is this doing what I thought it would? Is it bringing about the positive outcomes that I was hoping it would? And is it reducing the risk that I thought it might bring? And if it's doing that, then you've begun to make a great decision and you can move on. If you evaluate it and say, hey, it's actually not bringing out the positive outcomes I was hoping for, and maybe it's bringing about more risk and challenges, then at that point, maybe it's a good time to go back and look at some other solutions that you have and go back there and see if maybe you need to use a different solution or maybe going back to the drawing board. So again, when you think about decision making, sometimes making the perfect decisions are really hard. And so we can't expect us to always be perfect in the business, but what we can do is create a process for us so that we can always make the best decisions that we think possible given the information. So again, what do? We clearly define the problem. We gather the information that we need. We ask questions so we can understand what is the root cause of our problem. Then we think through solutions. We brainstorm. We find as many possibilities as we can to fix that problem. We weigh out the pros versus the cons, the positives versus the negatives, the rewards versus the risk. And then we take those list, and then we go and we find the best solution possible. We make a decision, we act upon it, and then we evaluate it to make sure that is the right decision for our business moving forward. If you practice those 4 principles, you may not make perfect decisions, but you will make really good decisions that you can feel confident about, decisions that you know are well thought through and that your team will appreciate at the end of the day. So thank you all again, as always, for leaning in to your leadership journey here at Chick-fil-A, and we hope that through this process you are going to be making great decisions within Chick-fil-A and beyond.